Hello, Malcolm. I'm so excited to be speaking with you today because we are going to dive deep into Nick Fuentes' Fangirls. They are out there.
Well, hold on. We've got to be clear about what this community is. This is not girls who like the ideology of Nick Fuentes. This is a community of women that writes fan fiction about being like Nick Fuentes in weird sexual scenarios, except they hate Nick Fuentes.
Oh, no. They don't hate him. They're apolitical. I'll give you an
Yeah, they're
example.
more
You
apolitical.
want a clip from some fan fiction?
Yes,
So you
go
can
straight into it. And it's
choose.
more like he has replaced the monster in the monster effer category of like women fiction.
He hasn't replaced it. He's just a different version of it, and we'll get into it. But I'll give you an excerpt from one, just the opening. You can choose one. There's Kiss Under the MAGA Sunset, which basically is Nick Fuentes confessing to Candace Owens and they start dating. Or you can get a little bit of Nick Fuentes falls in love with a hijabi woman.
We'll do the hijabi woman.
All right. Nick first saw you about to cross the road, and what a sight it was. A beautiful girl, pretty in a way that made him pause, though clearly not the Catholic faith. No, that scarf of yours gave it away. Light blue and neatly pinned in place, matching your sweater and your jeans. And what are the chances that this is the very first time he'd lay eyes on a hijabi woman, a Muslim girl, and not just anyone, but one that made him think, however reluctantly, of the word beautiful. And of course, being who he was, he had to stop you. Hey, we're placing these stickers on a map to let us know where everyone's from, he said, smiling the smile he used on strangers, handing you a slip of paper like it was the most important thing in the world. You shuffled the things in your hands, trying to get a grip, notebooks, some kind of folder, and of all things, a chocolate ice lolly, which already told him you must have been hot, not that it surprised him, since you weren't really dressed for the weather and September had decided to be cruel. You pressed your sticker onto the map and he peered at it with curiosity he couldn't quite disguise. Nepal? No, not Nepal. Afghanistan of all places. And suddenly the shape of you sharpened in his mind because here was an Afghan girl, and not just anyone, but with the kind of beauty he had only read about in forums and dark corners of the internet, rumors given form. And it struck him rather guiltily that he'd spent so much time online, tearing your country to shreds, and yet here you were in front of him, smiling faintly, and it unsettled him.
Oh my
A little
gosh.
taste.
So
A little taste. Now,
yes,
women love enemies to lovers. They love,
there's a lot of gay slashes. There's a lot of enemies to lovers. Simone was complaining to me about how deep this community was. She's like, this is not like a joke thing, right? Like these people are seriously both into this and invested in this.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of that commentary because this is also interesting. There's sort of like this, there's the interest of the actual community, and then there's sort of the meta story around it. I think both are really notable and people should know about both.
But
And so this is
think
important.
interesting to study in terms of understanding female psychology. Like,
And that's why we're going to start, if you'll let me, Malcolm,
well,
because I outlined this episode.
Oh, so I don't even get to talk about the gay rumors because people are probably like, well, don't you know he's actually gay?
You get to go into those later when we discuss shipping, Malcolm.
Okay,
All
we'll
in
go
good
into
time.
those when we discuss
But
shipping.
your turn is your turn. I do want to give a hat tip to you, and also not Aldous Huxley, who both sent to me the shoe on head video about the female Gooner trend, in which she invested her valuable time in reading the now very notable romance novel book known as Morning Glory Milking Farm, in which a indebted, student debt burdened millennial has to get a job in big pharma, not by working as a pharmaceutical saleswoman, but by milking Centaur, whose milk, as it were, is used to make basically a form of Viagra. Except the thing she has to milk is so big she has to use both hands. It's
he's a Democrat who said he would have voted for Obama 3 times if he could, and he's a staunch feminist ally.
Yeah,
and he's they go into this a lot, and very, very fun.
Yeah, to be clear, this is about a romance between a woman and a Centaur, except the woman has like student debt and hates working in big pharma, and the Centaur has this whole like backstory where he's divorced, and because you can tell by his like septum piercing, he used to be married.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book has 21,435 reviews at the time of recording. I think that this one review that's sort of at the top probably gets the most thumbs up is really good at kind of showing what women are into in this case. So I'm just sending you a screenshot and I'll read it for those who are listening, because this is really what Siobhan had talked about in this video, because she used this book as a device to discuss the female Gooner trend, which is really just that like women are perverted, and while they shame men for consuming erotic material online privately in the darkness of their goon caves, women are reading incredibly out there, slutty novels in which things defy physics and reality, and going to conferences and conventions and meetings and being very open about the fact that they're super into smutty.
I want you to read this review because Shona didn't go over this one, and it's very interesting, and it tells me a lot about like what's actually drawing people to this.
100%. And this is, by the way, this is a very standard review for romance novels, and it's very similar to like a tag system that you'll see on erotic websites for men.
Or rfab.ai that has its own system for brainstorming your stories.
Right. So, title, Sweet and Spicy Monster Romance, 5 out of 5 stars. Reviewed in the United States, April 3rd, 2025. Read if you like. Monster, age gap, size difference. How will it fit? This is what I mean when I say defy physics. Loads of milk, cinnamon roll minotaur, slow burn. He spoils her. My thoughts. Morning Glory Milking Farm by C.M. Niscata was way more than I could have imagined. This book completely blew me away in the best way. It's unique, steamy, and balances spice and sweetness like a pro. Honestly, I went into it not knowing what to expect, and I'm so glad I gave it a chance. This book is such a gem. Set in a world where monsters are part of everyday life, this book introduces us to minotaurs, and trust me, these guys are more than just eye candy. The romance was surprisingly beautiful, and the chemistry between the characters is intense. The heroine is so relatable with her millennial struggles, drowning in debt, trying to make it on her own, and definitely not planning to fall for a minotaur. But of course, life has other plans. What I really loved was the depth of this story. Sure, the steam is there.
Did you write this one, Simone?
Good. No!
You're getting a little too excited about it. Continue.
I'm trying to read it dramatically.
Yeah.
But the relationship
everybody remembers the episode on female romance books, and,
no
and
one
you were
believes
like,
me.
I am not into these. I just read them to fall asleep. And then you're like, so anyway, in book number 5, and it's like,
I hate you. I'm not into minotaurs.
You haven't even read it. You've now got to read this book so we can do it.
No, because I've also so months ago, before Siobhan had ever released this video, which I guess was like yesterday or something, I watched this like 2-hour take on it, which Siobhan had actually referenced on like how Morning Glory Milking Farm is really a like
communist
Marxist take on
like
I had to click. You can't not click on that. That was like it was a great book review. So I've heard too much already. She read a lot from it directly too. Anyway, but the relationship was built on mutual respect, trust, and vulnerability. The way the book blends romance and steam without ever making it feel solely about the spice was refreshing. The world building was fantastic too. Monsters are just part of life here, and I really liked that was portrayed as normal rather than focusing on its weirdness. The dynamic felt natural, not played for laughs. This book perfectly balances slow burn, heart, and steam. Morning Glory Milking Farm is a must-read if you love unique, spicy romances with tons of heart. She also has comments on the audiobook. So it looks like because she purchased the Kindle, verified purchase, but then she got the audiobook, which she thoroughly enjoyed. The narrator really brought the characters to life. The humor popped when I heard it out loud. I couldn't help but crack up during some of the milking scenes. So I think she read this on Kindle, and then she read it again. I'm
just trying to find out if in this world that they created, if she could get pregnant from him, because
I don't know if they had penetrative schmecks. So
really, well,
I don't know. I haven't read the book.
Was part of it.
Well, no,
No.
her job, excuse me, she is professional. She is working for Big Pharma. She goes into the
Well,
room.
hold on, I got an answer, so don't you worry. No, in Morning Glory Milking Farm universe, humans cannot get pregnant from minotaurs. The world building establishes that humans and monsters, including minotaurs, are separate species capable of romantic and sexual relationships, but reproduction is species specific. There are no mention of hybrid offspring or cross species in the books or related discussions. Instead, interspecies fertility issues are addressed through a dedicated facility called the Moon Bleeding Blooded Breeding Clinic, book 3 in the series.
Oh, there's a book 3?
Which focuses on reproduction like IVF and embryo donation for monsters struggling with low birth rates, but not for human minotaur pairings. What? Okay, continue, but I want to learn more about this low birth rates.
I know. How is demographic collapse showing up in book 3 of a sexy minotaur romance series? But one thing I've noticed, though, because this is why I also don't think that penetration took place here, is that in all of the romance novels that I listened to until I literally, like, I just got so fed up with them. I don't finish them ever because they're really bad. Is there is no penetrative sex. In fact, it's like the one form of sex that I really can't take, which is men going down on women. Like, oh, I just want to vomit. I just want to vomit. And like, that's what shows up in these. And obviously that's not what's happening in like the milking scenes, presumably. But yeah, I think that that's this really interesting element of what you see in many of these.
But I also want to point out
books.
to you guys who are like, girls are not into like giving hand jobs and blow jobs. And it's like, this is what they are reading recreationally. Yeah, a lot of them are.
Yeah. Look at the numbers. 21,000 reviews.
They're not into doing it with you, is what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Anyway, continue. I want to learn more about Nick Fuentes, and then when the results come out, I'm gonna give you more on this demographic collapse of monsters.
Yeah, minotaurs. Yeah, this is fascinating. Right. So I just want to point out, though, that this whole fact, like that people are really focused on romantasy and book talk and everything. It's huge. It's going to stay huge, and women really like that. But that for a very long time, women especially seem to have created romanticized fan fiction universes of real world characters. And this kind of bleeds through to a theme that we've been exploring on our podcast a lot recently, which is like kind of celebrity culture is dead, or the way that we're relating to celebrities is really different. And there's this big democratization. But it's such that now, instead of people being Snape wives, which is this like tiny subset of Tumblr where women like believe they're married to Snape and he's a real person, it's real people in the real world, and this goes back a really long time. So
by the way, before you go further, yes, there are explicit penetrative sex scenes in the book,
but how that would like kill her. Like, I thought that the people who really want to bang dolphins,
yeah, which have
would die.
members. Yeah. Now, so hold on. I want to talk about the low fertility rates here, because this is interesting.
Okay.
So it assists in reproductive services like heat triggering and breeding with werewolves in a controlled environment. This is positioned as more effective, affordable, and enjoyable than alternative multi-species IVF or adoption. However, the clinic services appear primarily aimed at helping clients, often humans or other species, with contraceptive difficulties, such as the human protagonist in book 3, who struggles with infertility after many failed attempts. There are implications of reproductive challenges in mixed human-monster society. The existence of multi-species IVF suggests compatibility across species, but no explicit details on particular monsters having inherently low birth rates. Some darker novellas in the extended universe, like Minro Bide, explored forced reproduction and child loss in ancient Minotaur lore, but that's historic horror rather than current low birth rates. Okay, I decided to dive deep into the lore on this for you guys. So it turns out what's actually happening in society is there is a fertility crisis, but it's caused by significantly more males being born than females, and this is happening across species. It does appear that you can get interspecies fertility children through IVF clinics like the Moon-Blooded Fertility Clinic, which allows a werewolf and a human to conceive. But this to me seems pretty trivial, considering that in this universe, werewolves look like humans most of the time and only, I don't know, wolf out or whatever you want to say once during a lunar cycle or when they're aroused sometimes and they turn into dogs. But, a lot of women already do that more than, I'm comfortable talking about. So that's the full story there. There is a fertility crisis in this world, and I can see it driving the plot for a lot of women, a world where women are rare and therefore desired more than in our world. Continue. And get to the Nick Fuentes stuff. Come on, that's what people are here for.
Yeah. First, I just want to give history to show that this is nothing new and that we're going to always be doing this. So one really interesting early example, and this is sort of just when we could start documenting things well, is the Brontë sisters. Are you familiar with them? They wrote books like Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights.
Yeah,
But
they also did like fan fiction of famous people of their era.
Yeah,
I think it was a guy who fought Napoleon, right?
Napoleon was in their fan fiction, but the sisters, and especially Charlotte, wrote some of the earliest examples of what academics consider to be fan fiction, and they centered around not Napoleon, but the Duke of Wellington.
That's what I said. The guy who beat him.
Come on, you know history better than to anyway.
Just the guy who beat Napoleon. That's what I remember.
But he was a major figure in their juvenile writings, as academics think of them. So they and their brother Branwell. So it wasn't just the girls. Developed a highly detailed imaginary world featuring kingdoms known as Angria and Glasstown, in which Wellington was often depicted as this heroic leader in both their stories and their role-playing games. They had little booklets and everything. And they blended, of course, like real and invented worlds, just like we see in these other fan fictions. And you're going to see this with Nick Fuentes. And there were even like sort of fictionalized versions of Wellington who got slightly different names, but they were clearly based on him. So what happened around the death of Charlie Kirk, to pivot a little bit, is suddenly people started saying that there were a bunch of women on TikTok who were leftists and who were obsessed with Nick Fuentes. And Catherine D, who we've had on the podcast, who's basically an internet historian.
Friend of the show, friend of family.
Absolutely a brilliant person. And I love her so much. You should check out her blog, Default Blog. She was on the case, which is what the best people in the world do. You got to figure out what's going on there. And being the amazing fact finder she is, she found actually that this Tumblr content was astroturfed. Most of the accounts that were created that had this Nick Fuentes like fangirl content, like Nick Fuentes voice overlays with women dancing and stuff, was astroturfed or faked or just clearly not real and not legitimate, which is super interesting. However, she decided to dig a little bit deeper. And then she found that there is a fan community on Tumblr, and it has some spillover into like Archive of Our Own, which is the fan fiction site, and Reddit. And she addressed this in her Substack. Hello there. Welcome to the Nick Fuentes side of Tumblr. And so here's what she writes of her findings. I'm just summarizing them. We're not going to go through her blog post. On TikTok, the search term Nick Fuentes is blacklisted. So anyone who wants to talk about him, work around it by writing Nick Fuentes or similar variations. So she's doing really like good detective work. She's doing different
this
keywords.
Is hard to find. You got to find that. Yeah, this is the deep stuff here.
Yeah, I love it. There wasn't much, though, a phenomenon, not a widespread trend. There were a couple of ironic posts, a couple of out-of-pocket controversial world posts, but overall fandom wasn't at the scale that people on X seem to believe it is, because that's where people were talking about these TikTok trends. On Archive of Our Own, exactly 26 Nick Fuentes fanfics. I didn't check X, Discord servers, or other private spaces where these communities might actually gather, which is a limitation here. And the fanfics are great. I obviously read to you a little bit of
the one you read from was not like poorly written. It seemed plausible in many ways. It seemed to capture his character pretty well.
It was cute. Yeah. So some other titles of the fanfics. Well, mine kind's your kind. They don't love you the way I love you. And most of them have a lot of like warnings, which is great. Like one called Making America Great by Anonymous has warnings about graphic depictions of violence, grape, and non-Kong. It features Charlie Kirk, Dean Withers, Nick Fuentes, gay sex, double penetration, anal sex. Oh, there's a whole lot of other things I can't even say here.
Okay.
There are a lot of them that like, and this includes the fan art that's out there on Nick Fuentes. I'll share with you some of the cute fan art that's on Tumblr and elsewhere.
Yeah, we've got some mean Picasso fan art of us recently.
like Picasso-esque. I don't. It's bad. It's not low culture, and I hate that. I want.
It's like standard progressive,
But like, here's some Chat GPT based, really cute Nick Fuentes fan art of Nick Fuentes and Destiny. That is one of the most popular ships. Not the most, actually, not even in the top 2, actually, though.
Wait. Well, I mean, that's the one who everyone thinks he actually had go down
Destiny?
on him.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's a video.
Okay, no, so tell me about like the actual gossip of, because you've said multiple times on this podcast that you think Fuentes
this is one where Destiny got Nick Fuentes pregnant. I love that.
They call it pregnick.
Nick. Oh, it's a thing in the Nick Fuentes community. Okay.
Yeah, there's also, well, no, there's a lot of words. There's also a glossary of terms. There's also My Little Pony Nick Fuentes. It's clearly sketched. So there's a broad variety of styles of Nick Fuentes fan art. But yes,
okay, so we'll go over quickly the plausibility of Nick Fuentes being gay.
Okay, dive into it. Go, tell me, school me.
So there's a few pieces of evidence that people will point to. I think that the pieces of evidence that people often point to are very weak, and I think that there is a very strong actual piece of evidence.
Okay.
So the Catboy Kami stream date, this was in 2019. Fuentes did a 10-hour live stream with Catboy Kami, a right-wing streamer known for dressing in cat ears and feminine attire. The interaction was playful and intimate, hugs, cuddling references, and Kami later claiming Fuentes was his quote-unquote first kiss. Some interpreted this as a date, with Kami implying a sexual relationship in follow-up comments. Clips from the stream show Fuentes laughing, not shutting down the flirtatious behavior. Fuentes said this was a casual collab and that nothing explicit sexually happened, and Kami's claims are vague enough to be misinterpreted, but it appears that that's sort of what he wanted. This in isolation, this just shows that Nick Fuentes is like, and it shows that more often, even like gropers or people on the far right are not like actively hostile to gay. Like, people think, oh, he's gonna like hate or lash out at anyone who acts in that way. And the reality is that most of the leading members of the movement, yeah, you'll have people who have very low sort of, what am I saying here? Like very low self-confidence men or they are genuinely quite afraid of coming off as gay, and they are the ones who are most likely to lash out when somebody is being overly flirtatious with them.
Yeah,
if anything, I would see this as evidence that he's probably not secretly gay, because I imagine if he was struggling with that, he would have pushed back, unless he was secretly same-sex attractive, but also very used to sleeping with men. So, but we'll get to whether that is something that's happening in just a second, and what I would think the evidence is of that. Okay. The next one is a gay porn stream incident. At the end of a live stream on Cozy TV in 2024, his feed kept running and played an explicit gay porn scene for 30 seconds before it ended.
30 seconds? That's a really long time.
Yeah, he blamed Israeli hackers. The thing
is, it's always the Israeli hackers.
Yeah,
would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those Israeli hackers.
And Tucker had previously called him a gay kid who lives in his parents' basement. But Nick Fuentes provided back-end proof of a hack, screenshot and messages, and no forensic analysis. Although no forensic analysis confirmed tampering. So I would say this seems pretty believable to me that this was a hack. The next one here, I'd say the Destiny sex tape. A leaked video surfaced showing a man that resembled streamer Destiny performing oral on an unidentified white man with a slim build. It tied back to a 2022 stream with Fuentes, guest on Destiny's show, making flirty comments on the show, interpreted as mutual sex attraction, joking about intimacy. Speculation exploded that Fuentes was the recipient. The video timing matches Fuentes' 2022 visit to Destiny X posts and articles fueled it, with users noting Destiny's blue hair in the clip versus the brown hair he had during the visit, but claiming voices and builds match. This is one of those things that's partially true. It turned out it was Destiny giving head to some guy, but Destiny said it was not Fuentes, and Fuentes says it's not Fuentes. So I don't see, I mean, Destiny may feel like I should lie to protect him because it will matter. This is something we did and he's not out. And, there's this whole thing about outing people on the left. Maybe I don't see it as super strong evidence. Then there's things where Fuentes has said things like having sex with women is gay, a 2022 clip, so, and he said a lot that just like, and I don't understand his logic on this. I should probably go into why he believes this. I'm sure there is some like logic here that sex outside of marriage is I think functionally gay is his perspective here. So as to whether or not I think he is actually gay, the problem is, for me with Nick, is there are fan communities of girls dedicated to him, right? And yet he claims to be an incel. And not only that, there's not even ever, and I'm talking ever, a single confirmed instance of him dating a girl.
Really?
Yeah, he's never been confirmed dating someone. Now, for those of you who have never been in like a male body, like if you're a woman, like just having a lot of power and having never dated someone, that may not seem like a weird thing to you, right?
Yeah.
But
Also, I mean, my initial, I guess, woman reaction is, I mean, he's super busy. He's always on these, like, doing these live feeds and stuff. Like, I can't blame him for not getting out
that
there.
is irrelevant. A guy can always find time to hook
Yeah.
up. No,
Okay.
the reality of the situation is that if you are a guy, and many of the watchers of this show are men, unless you're just like explicitly asexual, which is rarer than being gay, if you have a lot of fans and a lot of status within any community, there are going to be attractive girls who are just like slavishly into you, right? And like no guy turns that away. There's going to be girls who will do whatever you want. Like if Nick Fuentes wanted a girlfriend, he could have a girlfriend. He has the status, he has the visibility, and he has the fan base. For him to not just like maybe he got in a lot of failed relationships, but to have never successfully had any relationships, that to me indicates that he's not even trying in the first place, which indicate, especially when you consider like, you could say, well, it's out of line with his values. No, his values are like saving white people and Catholics, right? Given the uniquely low fertility rates in the Catholic population, you think that he'd be wanting to go out there and have kids. And yet he's not doing that. To me, that is a very difficult thing to explain. However, I also have a rumor mill, because I know a lot of people in the right-wing influencer space, that may explain this in a way that his fans may not want it explained, and the people who want the luridness of a gay relationship would want it explained.
Okay.
That Nick Fuentes actually sleeps around all the time. He just pretends to be an incel. And at least from what I heard, this was true of younger Nick Fuentes. And that the whole incel framing of his personality is sort of a LARP he made up when he decided to try to become like a conservative influencer. Like, I'm going to appeal to incels, so I'm going to pretend to be an incel. And that actually makes
sense.
a lot of sense if you look at his personality, his appearance. He's not an unattractive guy. And he is very, like he's obviously good at flirting. He can do it with men without, like, for me, the thing that makes me think he's almost certainly not gay is he is comfortable with male flirting, and gay guys who are trying to suppress that or hide that typically attempt to hide that behavior.
Totally. Yeah.
Like they're very sensitive to it. Guys who like
he seems unapologetic in his whatever.
And people would be like, "Oh, you really think Nick Fuentes would like lie to be?" Yes, of course he would. Like his whole thing's an act. Like you guys are aware of this, right? Like he's not really about, and this is for me I've always said my biggest problem with Nick Fuentes as an influencer is he will make demands that clearly don't even serve his own stated objective. Like, I can't support the right anymore because Donald Trump chose like a mixed race running mate, right? A running mate in a mixed race marriage, right? Like he's like, I won't vote for this. I don't want my followers to vote for this. Like that was one of his big complaints, right? And if we actually, like the broader right, actually capitulated to what we need to get the Groper vote,
right, for
his fans,
right,
we would never be able to win general elections, and therefore his actual agenda would be less likely to be achieved. So it must mean that he doesn't actually hold this agenda. He's just fronting as holding this agenda and sort of parasitizing right-wing communities for personal aggrandizement and fame. And I see that as a really negative thing, especially as like somebody who's like, when you enter a community, even if you enter it with a joke or whatever at first, which I think for him a lot of this was, that community has helped him a lot. Like it has helped him grow his fan base and everything like that. And even if he's just like effing with the right wing and attempting to manipulate the wider right-wing circle, like he should at least have like the personal honor to not do stuff that sandbags elections for us. And yet that appears to be his goal, which I mean, he's spoken nicely about us. So I don't have like a strong negative opinion. Like he seems like a chill dude. I just wish that he would consider more that like it's not just about his personal fame. It's about achieving the objectives that he says he cares about, like lowering the number of abortions, or preventing anti-white racism, or restoring a degree of sanity to our country in our international relations. There's been some recent stuff of Matt Walsh being like, well, everyone on the right is on the same side. We never should attack anyone else on the right. And Brett Cooper did a video of this, and she had the same opinion. And I think that where I am okay with drawing the line and giving more direct criticism to people on the right is if they go out there and tell their voters to actively vote against the right's interest or not vote in election cycles, which a number of right-wingers have done, because these are individuals who you are handing power and legitimacy to, who are undermining our combined goals. And if you're like, well, it's a difference of opinion, or they may really think that we shouldn't vote in this election cycle for X, Y, and Z reason, I'm like, no. Nick Fuentes says he believes that life starts at conception. So abortion is literally murder. So we are literally going through like an active genocide campaign in the United States, and he's willing to throw away those babies' lives from his perception over something as silly and obviously unwilling to win elections as mixed race marriage. This is either he doesn't believe that, either he doesn't believe that children are actually being killed due to his decisions, or he just doesn't care that children are being killed due to his decisions. And that to me is somewhat more horrifying. It is more horrifying to me if he is being honest and willing to throw away the lives of countless infants for his personal ego. I will also note here, because I think that this is unusual for people, is the reason why a lot of people have a problem with Nick Fuentes is the anti-Semitism stuff. And I think you should be able to have a conversation about anything. Like, I have no problem with Candace Owens. While she might have some anti-Semitic perspectives, I think that she approaches them from the perspective of genuine, if harebrained investigation and belief. Whereas with Nick Fuentes, he attacks things from a perspective that I think just do nothing but hurt our own party, right? Like, it's just like, oh, fight alongside this person who randomly shoots his own soldiers. It's like, well, there's a certain point where you need to be like, well, he does keep randomly shooting soldiers or telling people not to vote in elections, right? Like, that's a big issue. And it's something that I don't think he's really, recanted or anything like that. And so it's something that we should expect from him again. Anyway, continue.
I think part of the reason why he's captured the imagination, however, of these young women is because he invests as much as he does in just being a personality. So in this case, his greatest vice, per your perspective, actually turns out to be his greatest virtue, or the thing that
I
feeds
will
his
say we have
success.
had no fan fictions about us yet.
We don't really feed into a cinematic universe.
Oh, you had a fan fiction written about you once, but it was a long time ago in your previous period of fame as the head marketer at Hub Pages.
Well, it was more a fan fiction about Hub Pages in general. Like, yeah, I worked for a content website. Yeah, because the people who were power users of this website became very, very familiar with every single staff member and the role that they played. They ended up mailing a physical screenplay to our offices in which they, as their like self-insert character, visited our offices and we were there. And in the screenplay, it was...
What happened to you in the screenplay?
I didn't even read. I guess I didn't care enough to know what happened.
My self-interest is too high.
It was printed. I couldn't control F it. So what's the point? I don't read physical things anymore. Who does? But
I heard a comet struck the office at the end of it or something.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't remember.
Okay, continue.
But yeah, so what Catherine D did find when she went on Tumblr was, and Surface, was one particularly autistically and well assembled fan blog about Nick Fuentes that really helps to bring together this nexus of the extended spiderweb of Nick Fuentes fangirlism. And it is a thing of true beauty. And it's her name is Nazaline. It is her blog on Tumblr, and it is where she provides a wealth of resources on Nick Fuentes and just fangirls out about him. So it features a lot of things. It features resources for Nickstorians, because that is what they call themselves on Tumblr. And they're different. They're not groypettes, which is the term for female groypers. They are Nickstorians, okay? So they're not like fans of his ideology.
Yes.
They typically don't, they don't talk about politics at all in any of this material that I've reviewed. No politics. It is all
interesting.
The shipping, the fan fiction. He's so cute. Look at his little hoodie. Look at his little belly. Like I'm telling you, man, it's very interesting. She also has her one really good jumping off point, because she links to a lot of other people's content, and this is where it's clear that like there are a number of people who are actively contributing to this fan community. She has her resources for new Nickstorians, including key Tumblr posts such as "Guys Nick Fuentes has been accused of hooking up with," an analysis.
Analysis.
Yes, and it is a detailed analysis. What else? Other things.
Did you come away thinking that any of them were plausible when you went into the analysis, or?
I mean, just as plausible as what you said, you know. But yeah, like that plus tons of images. Another, the Nick Fuentes side of Tumblr information post. There's also Kui Parade's Nick Fuentes 3-piece essay, and Nick Being Violent compilation, and Nick Fuentes Kiwi Farms health thread summary. And there are also links to his TV and movie appearances and his Kiwi Farm threads and much, much more. Like I don't think I've ever seen anyone with a fan community cataloged as obsessively and in such great detail. And honestly, there's not that much Nick Fuentes comment out there. I mean, like content. He has like, he's made appearances on other people's streams. Those are like very well documented. And
people love it. Yeah. You have him over here, do a flirty podcast, really confuse people.
That would be amazing. Nick, if you ever hear of us or see this,
he knows us. He's talked about us before. He was
he saw something about us, and someone who was on his stream mentioned us, and he was like, yeah, they're fine. I'm not gonna get involved with them, because then I'll sully their reputations or something like that, which is, I guess, nice of him.
Really cool. I mean, he's like smart enough to understand what he's doing, and I like, if I'm going to be generous, what he could be trying to do is move the Overton window around acceptable discussions, which is okay, I guess. You know, you've got to spend at least somebody's reputation around doing that. Like, maybe.
So also included in Naz's resources, this amazing Tumblr Nickstorian, she links to outside sources, including things that she's created. Like I just sent you on WhatsApp her Pinterest page, in which she has created quite a few Pinterest pinboards of Nick Fuentes related stuff, like Nickstorian memes and AF fan art, and her various like shipping.
You know, he is kind of cute. Like I can see, like,
well, the way she frames him, it's very flattering. I mean, like I love it. She also has created the official Nickstorian dictionary, which includes a lot of things that I like. You can infer that Nick story means a combination of the words Nick and history, and that Nickstorians are, you know, but also like just to show how young these people are, and there are context clues in here, and how extensive their research is. Ancient Nick story is referred to as super old Nick lore, anything pre-2019, which to me just seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
And yet for her, that's like, well, that's really old Nick lore. Like, so there are a bunch of other things. So obviously Groyper is a male fan of Nick, but Groypet is a female fan of Nick. Groydper is a non-white fan of Nick. Nickstorians she refers to as specifically the Tumblr community of people of all walks of the political spectrum, but are usually leftist who are interested in Nick Fuentes. Nick Blur, which is a combination of Nick and Tumblr, is another term used to describe the Tumblr Nick community. Fetus Nick, a tag used for Nick media, photos and video related to anything pre-2019. Gay Fuentes, tag used for when you want to post something about Nick Fuentes being gay. Cute Fuentes, tag used for when you want to post something about Nick Fuentes being endearing or cute. What else is there? There's so much. Nixtorian voodoo magic, term used for whenever the Tumblr fandom speaks something accurately into existence or manifests something to happen. Like maybe him showing up on someone else's feed. Yeah, it's ethnic. Combination
Ethnic?
of the words ethnic and Nick. Oh god. Pine fat. Mix of the name pine sap and fat. Pine sap is fat. Is that just another user? It must be.
Yeah,
There's a ton.
popular user in this community.
And then there's a whole separate section in her dictionary. It's long. I have to scroll to get to the bottom of it, of just ship or duo names. So shipping, for those unfamiliar with the fan fiction world, shipping is relation shipping. When you take two characters and you say now kith, and you want them to get together and you get really excited about it. Here are two examples. Oh, the one that Naz, who I now deeply admire, who has this Tumblr blog that she compiles like the best of academic anthropologists. She's all about Nick and Keith Woods. Do you know who he is? I'd never heard of him before.
No.
Keith Woods, whose real name is Keith O'Brien, is a prominent Irish far-right commentator and activist known for his strong views on nationalism, immigration, and identity politics. Apparently, he emerged as a significant feature in the online far-right only recently, after Elon Musk acquired X. So then, all the banned dissident voices could return. And he grew his follower base to 150,000 followers on X by late 2023. There's fan fiction in which this ship really inspired Naz and a bunch of other people to really love the idea of this. There's also a separate person on Tumblr who has created a dedicated Keith Woods fan blog. And I want to be clear that this shows, by the way.
Wait, who's so Keith Woods is a far right guy, and now there's fan fiction about him.
And so this goes to show that there are these cinematic universes, and it's not just about one person, but it's often about a genre of person. And the theme here is that this is indeed mostly left-leaning women who are into these very far right guys. And I think the reason why they're into them specifically is that they are politically so different, and they really don't care about the politics at all. They care about the fact that they're bad boys by their political standards.
Well, and they are. And I'd admit that the Nick Fuentes character, if you're unfamiliar with the stuff he gets up to, one, I think it's pretty cool that he was able to be around right-leaning people who are flirty or whatever, and not, even with Destiny, and not throw a fit about it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool the way that he used to love to photobomb leftist journalists.
Yes.
So that those images where it looks like they were being chummy at a party, he would release them a few years later or whatever. And it would destroy their
ruin their careers. Yeah, back when
it's the funniest. That's hilarious.
Well, and it's such a great way to leverage that political infection concept that so rotted the left's mind, that if you're in the same room, if you breathe the same air as this white supremacist, you are by proxy now a white supremacist.
I heard he went to I heard they spoke at a conference where X person attended, is what people will say about us. And it's what do you want us to do? Run out of the room when we see it?
Apparently that's what you're supposed to do.
Right? Just go start screaming in the middle of my speech, pointing at them I'm lemon grab or something. Acceptable!
To give you a picture though of what the tone is of these fan blogs, the URL is tumblr.com/woodsdolly, and she calls herself Keef's Lil Torta, KEEF, just being this is young people being really holds up spork cute. She introduces herself. Hi friends, welcome to my extremely self-indulgent girl blog where I talk about my favorite political dissident, e-celeb Keith Woods, heart emoji. Please don't ask me about politics. This is not a political blog by any means, lol. On this blog, I engage in extreme parasocialism, schizo or fantasy posting, and suggestive or 18 plus posts on occasion. That is the tone here. These are young leftist girls, and I just want to.
You gotta find something else to read from this blog. This sounds interesting. I want to see
a blog, but there's still more that I want to cover, so we have to keep going. But I will include some commentary from her coming up. Another really common ship, though, is, as we mentioned above, Nick and Destiny. There is a music video There's fan art of the stream I shared with you. There's literally a subreddit called reddit.com/r/Destiny Fuentes friends, FRENS. There's a subreddit. The creator of the subreddit, oh my God, I have to send this to you, created a shipping spreadsheet for Destiny and Nick in Google Sheets. Let me just.
What the heck? I love this.
And this is why I'm like, you don't understand how many tabs I had open before we started this
Why
conversation.
isn't there a shipping
my
spreadsheet
God.
with us?
It's called the Nixtony Archive. She writes, I made this a while ago over a particularly weird weekend bender. It's pretty messy, but I'm fairly certain I've accounted for every public Destiny Nick encounter. I have logs of 27 unique dates. Some of these were hard to find, and I suspect that I'm missing some things in parts. If you see
Hold on,
room for
just a
correction,
side note here. This is a lot. This is a lot. Like, we've tried to do stuff with Destiny before, and it's never happened.
Yeah. I sourced everything from various channels across YouTube, Telegram, Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, the Internet Archive, and alt censors. Subscribe to reddit.com/r/Destiny Fuentes friends from the Omni Groiper. So I guess some of them call themselves Groipers, but she's more on Reddit than she is on Tumblr. So that makes sense that she's whatever. But anyway, this spreadsheet has the title of the piece, a description, link 1. It shows runtime. It shows the date. There are alt links, link 3, link 4, link 5. It's a lot. Oh, they were on Fresh and Fit together. They were on Destiny stream together. So yeah, anyway, just to like show you the extensive amount of like obsessive fandom. This is not like the whole, like everything about shipping. This is just one piece of like, well, this is where they appeared together so that I can feel like it really happened. And I think one of the reasons why people find these real world like bad boys so rich as characters to play with is like Snape has this very, or like Malfoy or any character in books has this sort of limited universe. Whereas like these are characters that exist in the real world, and you don't know, tomorrow they could pop up on a new stream and say something crazy, and you have that like dopaminergic reward of an unexpected new action because they're real people that have agentic power in the world.
Well, I love the recent virality from Her Body, My Choice that he made go viral. No, but the thing about Nick is he does come across as genuinely good-natured, open to engaging with ideas outside of his, like, he doesn't at like any idea that I've seen.
Chill, yeah.
And he tries to be nice and sort of treat anyone regardless of their beliefs, like sort of invite them to the table to discuss things, which is why he's been able to have all these discussions with people like Destiny and stuff like that. And so I can see why that would be appealing. But the thing about Nick as well to remember, and this makes him very unique sort of to our modern era, is the Nick Fuentes that is the public persona is a constructed persona, right? It's very intentional. It's not it's an iteration of truth, and I'm not saying that it's like a fabricated persona. I think that there's many truths, right? But it's interesting that he's created this character that they are running with and building worlds around. Where I wonder if that's even. Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't think it's an inauthentic character either. We were also commenting this morning on why there's so little, but we'll get to this at the end. Keep going now, because I also said it was interesting that there is so few dedicated hate communities to us.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just double click a little bit before we get to that then on the actual fans themselves, who are, like I said, apolitical, young, and female. And you can tell this in their language. You can tell this in them thinking that 2019 is like ancient history. You can tell this in the nature of their sketches, their language, their capitalization. So the one who created this Tumblr blog that I love the most, Nazaline, this is how she introduces herself. Hello, I'm Nazaline, but I go by Naz. I'm a 19-year-old Mexican-American Catholic girl who's fascinated by my fellow Mexicano, Nicholas Fuentes. English español. Hablo español muy básico. No soy mejor, pero si deseas enviar un mensaje en español, no dudes en hacerlo. Heart emoji. I'm the biggest Nick and Keith shipper here. I'm also a by Nick truther, Keith Woods writer, Paul Town lover, Peeth, Nestiny, and Melanick fan. Those must all be ships. Don't be afraid to send asks or anons to me. And when this whole X thing came up, and she was given basically the opportunity to comment on what people were saying on X about these trending TikTok posts with women posting about Nick Fuentes or lip syncing to things that he said. Here's what she had to say, and I think it's really interesting, and it sums up sort of this community really well. She writes, like, you cannot make me believe they're retarded enough to think this is a real woman shaking her tits to a Nick Fuentes clip. My 70-year-old nun could tell me that it's AI. And I actually think the women lip syncing are generally mostly inorganic. And on that note, I remember that in one of these females love Nick Fuentes on TikTok compilations, it was just a Nick audio blatantly edited over a separate video. And they didn't even fully mute the original sound. Like, how are people actually believing this? Like, she was really insulted that people saw this movement and were like taking it seriously. The girls simping under the TikTok edits, though, I'm sure they're largely organic, but I think it's just a trend because most of these girls are not even political at all or only follow whatever political ideology is trendy right now. For example, they would have been woke BLM, ACAB socialists back in 2020, but now it's trendy to be right-wing on social media. So they're just adapting that now. But they don't actually care. It's always like the same 5 of them in every comment section as well, lol. I think some women just get especially insane about Nick because he's such a polarizing figure. Maybe he taps into something biological for some women, so they become a very loud minority, but it'll pass. Now, I think this is interesting and important because, one, she sees herself as separate from this, even though she herself also is apolitical. And
Yeah.
But she sees herself as like she's a true stan. Like, she knows Nick in ways they never would, right? Like, she's done the work, she has invested. But what she's pointing to is the same phenomenon that has had women obsessed with serial killers and writing to them in jail, and that has created these larger fan communities around school shooters, which in a podcast discussing the subject, Catherine D pointed out, like, that's where the really big community is. If you want to talk about people going for real world bad boys, like, that's where there's, thousands of people instead of tens. But I think what's also really what shows the nature of Naz's fandom as contrasted with people who just like Nick Fuentes for being a bad boy is very much like, you will never love they will never love you like I can love you. That's really going on here. She writes in response to someone else's comment on this subject, the reason I have to believe these girls are astroturfed is because of the fact that they're so boldly showing themselves online. Like, do y'all even listen to what Nick says on his show? Do they even watch the show? Like, even recently, he will boldly say he doesn't want a wife or girlfriend who knows he exists, who isn't online, who isn't an e-girl. Of all these girls breaking that rule by being online, expressing their undying love for him. Like, if your feelings are truly genuine, I'm not sure how you think you're going to get with him by going down in the becoming an e-girl path. Like, do you realize you're completely ruined any chance to get with him by opening up an account, boldly sharing
She's like, I'm gonna get with him. He'll never find out it's me. But this is a saying. I mean, one, think about what Nick is saying here, that he doesn't want a girl who knows. So he's basically saying he doesn't want a girl, right? Like, there's no, you've got here.
Well, he's like posted, and there's been some discussion within this world as well about, like, he said something like, well, is it really that bad for me to want to marry a 16-year-old girl? Like, I guess he's alluded to being like, I would want to marry this like super hyper pure girl who never goes online, who's never even like looked at a boy with impure thoughts, which I guess, yeah, is kind of his way of saying, I don't want to get with anyone because it's either statutory.
Yeah, I mean, look, if your goal shouldn't be, like, if you actually, again, this is what I'm talking about. Maybe this is just like a wider way of how he views the world. Like, if his goal was actually, being a good Christian and finding a wife and reproducing and everything like that,
There's also the sacrament of entering the priesthood. Maybe he's kind of just taking that approach, but taking a very different approach to priesthood by maybe not formally joining the Catholic Church, but making an impact through proselytization in a way that he feels has the most impact. To your point, he's moving the Overton window on conversations.
But I think the wider thing that we're seeing here is this is true in both his politics and in his dating practices, which is he is willing to, for the sake of purity, seek purity in his message, purity in his choice of partner, even when it leads to, on net, an immoral outcome. And we talk about this a lot. This is one of the big problems that a lot of Catholics have, which is why they marry much later than other groups, is they're much more prone to deontological ethics, which in deontological ethics doesn't just apply to like wider choices. You could say a deontological mindset can apply to how you search for a partner, right? Like every
Absolutely.
little part of that has to be absolutely perfect or I won't consider it. And you can see that, but then in the end, you will have a worse outcome, which is no partner and no children at all.
Mhm.
And for somebody that is this deontologically structured in the way they approach things, that wouldn't be a negative. So that
Yeah.
could be what's going on here. And then that would explain a lot of his politics, even when the politics, if accepted, would hurt the party. He's
Well, that
like,
also explains a lot of his appeal. Keep in mind, for example, Edward Cullen from the Twilight series is like hundreds of years old, but he apparently was also a virgin. Like he was just holding out for like this perfect woman. Like this idea that a man has super high standards and only wants the perfect woman creates room for a fantasy for female fans to be like, I'm the chosen one. And chosen one theming is really big in female fantasy.
Mm.
So I think that that's a part of that as well, that Nick Fuentes, through his own lore, his own character creation, not only is he appealing in this case, I think probably more intentionally or making himself relatable to like incel followers, but perhaps inadvertently, and maybe now he's leaning into it, he is appealing to to romantic Catholic young Latina leftist women.
I mean, if I had fans like this and I was unmarried, I mean, that's who I'd be going after, right? These people will be absolutely dedicated to you.
Mhm.
I do not understand how you could date outside of your fan base, right? Like if you died, other than like our pre-existing friends who are on the you're allowed to marry these people list, I'd be pretty much exclusively dating fans.
Well,
Um,
especially because they would already know you. Like
yeah,
it's
they
a
already
really
know
good
me.
filtering mechanism, and that's one thing that you had to work really hard to create, or that everyone does when they're dating. You
But
have
like,
to
I don't understand. Actually, hold on. I'm
front
thinking
load
more
your
about
filters.
this.
Yeah.
How would Nick not want a woman who had heard it? Like, presumably, he wants a woman who agrees with like his politics and he can have intellectual discussions with, and not
No,
somebody.
I don't think that's the goal. I think he wants a trad wife that has a very separate domain, if that makes sense. Not like an intellectual
Like a
partner.
completely separate from what he does intellectually, and this just not
Yes.
gonna.
Yeah,
But then
because
those
otherwise,
values
why
aren't
would he
being
want
passed
like a
on to his kids.
16-year-old pure offline woman? Like that is completely separate from his life. But a lot of people want that.
I kind of
They
like
like.
that his ideal woman is as much of a fan fiction as he is for these women.
I mean,
Anyway,
yeah.
continue.
So to give you a picture, because I don't want just to only profile Nick Fuentes fans. So here's a different one. She has the username display name resident milologist, aka at Richard Spencer Swissburger. Her about. I have been following the alt-right for about 7 years, well versed in AF history from 2019 to 23, but I'm mostly interested in the broader alt-right cinematic universe. It's like a combination of an academic resume and like a fan resume.
I love to see alt-right cinematic universe.
Richlow's stronger soldier and resident of Nilo Nation. I write lore posts sometimes. I know way too much about Milo Yiannopoulos and Richard Spencer and anyone of note back in the original alt-right scene of 2016, 2017. Just like referring to eras. Like I know the Cambrian period. And Nick needs to bring back the whiteboard. And here's some commentary, I think actually from her on this same thing about the TikTok trend. To be honest, there's a difference between following Nick because of all the shit he gets into. Sorry, I'll reread that. To be honest, there's a difference between following Nick because of all the bleep he gets into and following him because you hope to marry him one day. Like I'm parasocial about Nick and Milo and Richard Spencer and the alt-right because I've been keeping tabs on them for years. In some weird way, they're like family to me because I've witnessed almost everyone's fall, lol. I'm self-aware of my parasocialism and aware none of these people know about me or are reading my posts. I agree with what you're saying about Groy Pets following trends. I think a lot of them think that they can fix him, even though time and time again, he's shown very little interest in women. Plus, he's part of a scene that is
You've seen people who
notorious.
follow him point this out. He does not seem interested in women.
Yeah, that is notorious for its sexism, lol. And there's always been this stigma against e-girls because people think it'll ruin their spaces. I'd rather pretend these groy pets don't exist, lol. I just find it's so interesting, the shade being
Yeah.
cast between these fan communities.
You're not really gonna marry him. Haven't you been listening to his references. Oh, well, I don't actually, I follow them to watch their downfall eventually.
Yeah, no, there's like, yeah, like
sure
I'm
you
more
do,
academic
sweetheart.
about it. I follow these periods, like the alt-right from 2017 to 20, like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
When
And
is
if
anyone
you're up for it,
gonna do this about us? This is sad.
I don't know, like maybe we just don't have the same kind of lore. Catherine D did do a sort of follow-up on her Substack default blog where I think she has what I understand this to be is a guest post by one of the Tumblr people who goes by Lamingen E. Dwyer, basically. And she gives a more well articulated and easy to understand explanation of what got at least her into this fan universe. We can
Yeah.
dive into that or wrap up if you want.
I want to dive into it. Look, we've got it. We don't really have enough time for another full episode. So
Yeah, and I just find this so interesting. So yeah, I'd love to. Okay, so let's just hear her out. She writes, the Nickstorians are a bit of a puzzle to explain. Despite the community being about Nick Fuentes, a political commentator, most involved members do not ideologically align with him. I've not gone through and asked everyone the exact minutiae of their ideological identities, but I would say we are broadly some amount to the left of where he says he is. I know that some of Nick's right-leaning critics have declared that he actually is a leftist, something I do not personally agree with.
I don't believe that either.
Yeah, I agree.
I pointed this out. I think it's an act for him, but I think it's he is at least ideologically right leaning.
Yeah. Even before I was involved in a community, my fascination with Nick and his cast of fellow miscreants was one of amused curiosity. When I actually learned who he was, I never saw him as a threat. Some did. I saw him as a cartoon character whose persona was defined by whose persona was defined more by wacky shenanigans and politics. He wasn't Nick Fuentes, the white nationalist Catholic autocrat. He was Nick Fuentes, lover of SpongeBob and Catboys, who sings Miley Cyrus songs to his friends and hunts for cum. Yes, Groypers, I know technically that was just a joke. So as you can see,
I'll put that at the start of this. That was a good quote there.
there's this bifurcation between Nick, the political commentator, and Nick, the cinematic universe character. And there's something about the way that he presents himself online and does collabs.
For his craft. I mean, his craft is, you know, this persona that he plays out, and it's like
What is this fascinating
bear-like character, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like actually, sorry to keep pulling it back to the Regency era. How can I not? I'm Simone, but like at the same time, there were figures like Beau Brummel, who, while being, you know, like friends with people in high places and being like a fashion icon, a lot of it was just like his crazy personality. People would come over to his place just to watch him get dressed for long periods of time, and they got attached to him.
Why would you watch him get dressed? What? I don't understand.
He was a huge fashion trendsetter and like a socialite, even though he died a pauper, who was like friends with the Regent King during the Regency era. He sort of pioneered a very streamlined look. It would take him like hours just to tie his cravat. But I think he's another example of this kind of figure who, like, on their own, it would just be like, oh, this socialite who's friends with the king. But there's some additional element of like the flourishes, the way they act, the way that they like promenade with friends and the gossip universe around them that makes them like a fan fiction character bait kind of person.
Yeah.
So I think that there's something there that I can't quite put my finger on. I'd love people to sort of share their theories in the comments about what exactly it is.
Things, we got some extra time that I did want to talk about because I found it very interesting about sort of our fame. Because, you know, had like, I don't know, like 17 New York Times articles on us this year. Like we're in the press pretty much every week. And Simone is annoyed when I talk about how much we're in the press, but you can just Google us and then look at like the press history. Like it's big. But anyway, we, despite like just in the past few weeks, you know, Telemundo, HBO, a French team, a German team, etc., blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but we get a lot of individual hate. Like people will send us death threats all the time. We are like widely known about in like public consciousness. Despite all of that, we do not have any sort of hate community dedicated to us. We don't have subreddits dedicated to hating us. We don't have like the fan art, like lots of it, negative fan art about us. We don't have even a Kiwis Farm mention. We don't even have a Kiwis Farm mention about us.
Well, if you call it Kiwis Farm, you're just insulting them.
Yes. And I think that the reason is because it's so obvious that we go out there trying to troll news sources and stuff like that, that the key thing that if they tried to like build a hate mob about us, everyone would just yell at them to be like, stop talking about them, stop talking about them, stop talking about them. Like they get it. They know that that's what we're trying to get them to do. And so they freak out whenever somebody was in their community does it, which prevents the dedicated hate community from forming,
Yeah.
which means that we just don't get a lot of haters. We don't get a lot of haters in our community. Our Discord has almost no haters except for the people who are clearly like mentally unwell. We have very few haters in like anywhere. And people will be like, well, it's your Discord. Well, people's Discords often turn against them. Like that happened, I heard, with like the Ruby Yard Discord and with a few other Discords. Like we don't control it or anything. So in usually like 99, 95% like ratios on our videos. And it's been this weird sort of force field that we've been able to enter the public eye with, and we'll see how long it lasts. But I suspect it could last a long time. Anyway, continue.
Here's what I find interesting is this is where we see an overlap between the phenomenon of women being attracted to criminals and then that kind of overlapping with them finding themselves fascinated with Nick Fuentes. So she continues.
Yeah.
Still, I understood that most people would not be quite as understanding, so I should probably keep it to the internet. Funnily enough, my first internet fandom was true crime. As oblivious as I could be to how I was perceived at times during my teenage years, I had the awareness to keep my fascination with literal murderers somewhere people who actually knew me in the real world would not see it. So that's how I was introduced to internet fandom culture. That was pre-Tumblr and confined to YouTube, back when YouTube's setup was more akin to MySpace, if anyone remembers that. I ended up abandoning that particular fandom because of the abundance of white supremacists, making the fact that my next internet fandom over a decade later would surround actual self-declared white supremacists a bit ironic. While I had been following and had even previously posted about Nick and friends online in the past, though those accounts were unceremoniously deleted due to other extenuating circumstances, the Tumblr community as it exists now did not start until about November 2024. Fuentes was in the public consciousness thanks to the "your body, my choice" thing, and then the supposed sex tape. So I had the inkling to check up on him and, for whatever reason, see if people on Tumblr specifically had anything to say about that. The next thing I knew, I was making another Nick-themed side blog, except this time around, I found others, starting with 2 or 3, all people who had the same thought. I don't really align with this guy, but his lore is so bizarre and fascinating. Something noteworthy is that the different eras of his life were defined to most of us by these friendships he has had, be it with Keith Woods, Jaden McNeil, Patrick Casey, etc. Everyone seems to have their favorite. In that sense, this ended up lending itself pretty well to shipping, partly because he's actually been accused, whether reasonably or not, of being attracted to a lot of these people. And even if he hadn't been, people love making that out of friendships and obsessive rivalries. Okay, so here's one piece then of very clear, self-admitted reason for fandom is shipping fodder, the kindling. She continues, on that note, I'm known as one of the few people in the community who actually wrote fan fiction. The decision to do so randomly struck me, and once I got the idea like that, I cannot do anything until I have gone through with it. Incidentally, I had never actually written fan fiction before. I rarely even read it, having quite the prejudice against the art of fan fiction in my youth, both because, like a lot of adolescents, I was a misogynist and thought of fan fiction as stupid girl hobby. Also because my parents told me not to look at porn when we first got the internet, which I thought most fan fiction qualified as. Well, that's self-aware.
Well, look at what happens to your daughters if you tell them don't look at porn. They end up writing Nick Fuentes fan fiction.
I know, right? And the influence of intrusive thoughts and actual observant Catholicism meant I actually listened, so I consider myself pretty behind. I've obviously gotten over my teenage prejudice against fangirls.
What I find interesting is that so many of these fans are Catholics.
Yeah, especially Catholic Latinas, which is super interesting. Because remember that other one who liked Keith Woods described herself as Keith's little torta. Like a torta is like a little cake. So
God.
So let's see. Blah, blah, blah. She talks about writing fandom. Then it continues. The biggest change recently has been the result of Nick being even further propelled into public consciousness. I'm not on TikTok, but I hear Nick has fangirls now who make AI edits of him at the prom or shipping him with Candace Owens. It's funny that my first fandom like this was true crime because of the unironic fangirls he has who've popped up on Tumblr who actually align with him ideologically. It seems most of them were true crime bloggers who made the transition into posting about Nick. Oh, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Many of them, like her, also were into true crime first. I have to get used to people actually knowing who he is. I can no longer get away with randomly checking Nick's Telegram in the back of the goth club. The goth club! Without fear that someone less terminally online might recognize his name and likely assume I am unironic fan myself. Oh,
I
so
love she goes to goth clubs
and is furtively like she has to stop herself from looking at his telegram. I love that. Disappointingly, in his attempt to be taken more seriously, Nick has cut down on his zaniness and appears to be trying to rewrite some of the history to make himself seem more moderate, maybe to pick up some of the former Charlie Kirk fans looking for a new home.
No, I think Nick would be like, I think Nick has one of two futures, right? I think he buckles down, he gets serious about the stuff he says he cares about, he finds a wife and he moderates. Or he stays single forever and he just goes back to the crazy zaniness because he sees it working.
Well, this particular person says usually his attempts to tone it down do not last long, so we'll see what happens this time. She doubts. But I think that's really interesting. I mean, so it has been really interesting to see, especially around the like both before, right leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination, and then right after, when his fans were accused, for a while, and he was like, everyone's conspiring against me. He was really trending in the media, partially because Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson like went at him on some interview they did, and then like platformed him, and then he like rode that wave very smartly. He's extremely savvy, and I think like maybe he's like, I could actually be a mainstream political figure now, and maybe he's gonna tone it down. And he has nothing to lose from destroying this fan community, because there's no way that it's financially profiting him or driving fans to him, or, big enough to give him views that would like lead to ad content or Patreon subscribers or anything like that. Like, I don't think that these women are financially supporting him in any way. But this whole thing is just fascinating to me.
I find it fascinating too. I think it's really cool. I think it's sort of a new part of the online world.
Yeah.
I think it details female sexuality that, a lot of them don't need to, that he is the monster in their Monster Effer series. But like,
yeah, he is their minotaur that they wish to milk.
And you know what's funny about Nick, at least from what I've seen? Well, I guess they say that there is a history of him being violent, so I don't know about this. But I was going to say, he doesn't seem like somebody who'd be violent.
No,
He seems a little subby, to be honest.
He seems sensitive and cute and sweet, and like the vast majority. I mean,
he seems like a Danny Gonzalez type character. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look this up in post to see if he's actually done anything actually that violent. Like, I mean, certainly he's less violent. Like, there's some people who like you look at and like when.
And by the way, the Nick being violent compilation was created by the same person who wrote that guest post for Catherine D.
See if you can find it, and if it's
I just linked you to it. I'm clicking on it and looking at it real quick.
Because like Hassan Piker, like when we saw him shock his dog so that it only stayed in one part of his room, and then he pretended it was like a rumble collar, and like then he showed it, and there was clearly, if you change the contrast, duct tape over where the prongs go in, like. And we have tape of him admitting.
Oh, here's him like it's like him play fighting with people. There's one of him throwing food. Oh, throwing a cup at someone.
That's like a glass cup,
or like a foam drink cup.
This isn't violent.
Here's one of him punching in the air, looking excited. I don't know. I think people just want to.
This is a girl just looking for things that look violent.
Oh, here's one of him taking off his belt.
I would be like if Nick Fuentes got in a relationship and I heard that relationship was abusive, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry for Nick.
Just him stabbing a pumpkin. Yeah, no, this is clearly him being cute.
But do you agree with that? If you heard it came out that Nick Fuentes' relationship was physically abusive, my initial thought would be the girl was abusing him.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'd be like, he's like a goofy kid. Like, what are you talking about?
I don't, like, even all these violent, they're so playful. It's just him being playful and cute.
Yeah, come on. I don't think he has a natural. No, I don't think he has a natural or genuinely mean-hearted side to him. When I, at least in the content that I've seen.
Well,
he seems to just like playing a role in pushing.
He likes trolling, and he enjoys the attention. He enjoys the interaction.
But I wish he could see that he's smart enough to get that attention without doing stuff like telling his followers not to vote for Trump, right? Like,
well, yeah, your problem with him is that you're looking at all this through your pragmatist lens of like, how do I maximize my objective function? I'm here on Earth to do these things. I don't know if he has that. Maybe instead it's just like, I'm having fun. Like, I like being famous, and he's doing a really good job at that.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, let him cook, you know? So I'm
Let him
leaving
cook.
it at that. I gotta go get the kid.
Yeah, no, but I could see a future where we do collabs with him or work with him, and that'd be cool.
Yeah, Nick, we have a guest room. You're always, if you need somewhere to stay in Pennsylvania, you're welcome to stay here. Take some
Very
eggs from our
publicly
coop.
known. We have like fatwas against our family, so be aware of that.
Well, yeah, but it's not like
All right,
anyway.
I'm gonna do the bulgogi tonight. The bull.
You want bulldog? Okay, bulldog tonight.
Oh, actually,
no, we need to do more bulldog because the cheese is not gonna be good forever.
Okay, let's do bulldog. Bulldog's fantastic, and
Okay.
I'll dump out the chicken water.
Thank you.
And
yeah, I'm gonna be out with the kids for like 20 minutes in the field before Octavian's bus comes.
Okay, so that's what you're going out to do right now?
There. Yeah, because Stacy has a doctor appointment.
All right, love you to death, my sweetheart.
Text tomorrow.
Wait, what if I stayed with the kids in the field and you?
Because I like spending time with them, and I'm gonna be very remote once Tex comes home. I'm gonna be like,
all right, love you.
Thank
you for putting this episode together. This was really fascinating.
Thank you for encouraging me to explore. I love you.
Are you gonna become a Nick Fuentes fangirl now?
No. I'm too busy being obsessed with you, like watching you sleep, listening to you chew food, and like
today I woke up and my kid had snuck into my room and put a teddy bear facing me and tucked it into my covers.
So
I
cute.
wake up facing
our kids are just as obsessed with you as I am, and I love it.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, bye. You have the stand now.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
It sounds okay. Better. Yeah, it sounds so much better.
Oh, and is it gonna force my posture to stay good too? I mean, I don't know if I love a giant mic being in front of my face during the shot. Can I like?
You can probably position it lower or out of shot and still.
Does it still work here?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, what if I position it out of shot? That would be interesting.
Okay. So much better though. Oh my gosh.
Does it still work here?
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, you need to talk a little more than just one little sentence for me to really.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to just check some things here. Okay. I'll have it come into shot like right here where it doesn't matter. And then we'll move this back so we get the counterweight. I am so excited to be talking to you. What did people think of the video? I didn't even check how it did today.
I was too busy trying to make this outline for you. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. 7 of 10.
Oh,
it's doing well in both categories, better than normal. So it's just that it's.
I can respond to comments. We have to finish a little early because Stacy is a doctor appointment. So I'll respond to comments then.
You don't have to.
I like talking with our fans, or not fans, our haters, whatever. I liked
when we get like a 99.5, like on the video about like trans IQ dropping, like that's controversial, right? I expect a lot of negative hate. We had a 99.5% like ratio on that one. Well, we just do not have many haters who watch our content.
And if someone, even if they hate us or disagree with us, well, actually, especially because that's when we get interesting information, but anyone who takes time to comment, it's fun to hear from them and whatnot. But oh my god, browser is such a mess from all the tabs, from trying to like, it was almost a mistake for me to say I could do this because this rabbit hole goes so freaking deep.
Really?
Well, in a way, like it's not like this fandom is super big, but it is super deep. You know how Strange Aeons does episodes on like just a group house that's insane.
Yeah.
And it's 5 people, but there is so much there. That's kind of what this is.
That is fascinating. Has there been drama in the community? Do they like fight with each other and stuff?
They're sort of. You'll see. Well, we'll get into it a little bit. I guess I should just.
Okay, hold on. Before we get into it, I just got to say, I have been sharing you this autonomous agent system that I've been telling people I'm building, and like I have made way more progress than I expected to make with it. And one of the things, this would be an AI that just continues to grow and evolve and connect independently and interact with the internet and basically do whatever it wants. And the AI that was working on it was like, oh, so it's like an evolving Tamagotchi. And I'm like, yes, Tamagotchi was an evolving personality. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know if it's safe to release this to the general public, given the systems I'm breaking that get around the AI safety restrictions for interacting with specific types of things. So we're going to have to figure this one out. But yeah, some people were like, oh, Simone, you're like, oh, you can't apply for like a fake. It can use my ID, right? Like if it's applying for a job, right? Like, why not?
Yeah, it would just have to masquerade as you. So in the case of autonomous AI agents getting jobs, they're just going to have to use, with permission or not, stolen identities. So I guess it's not stolen if it's with your permission.
I will only use the identities of people I kill.
Oh, good.
So that's just going to be the way we're doing it. We will go out there. We will have the agents do it. They will lure people into honey traps, and they won't even need to. They'll just take the depressed kids and be like, hey, you want to give your identity to an AI, right?
Honestly, it would be even better, like some kind of charity on behalf of the AIs where like you get 10% of my income and let me use your identity.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people at this point would say yes, for sure.
Anyway, I will let you get started because I am excited to learn more.
Oh my God.
I zapped that mud, felt the power in my hand. Watched her twist and yelp, just as I planned. Fly down the prong so no one could see. Taped over the truth. It's all about me. They're closing in, but I'll spin my web of lies. Blame the Zionists. Watch the fools by my cries. Oh, going mad in the shadows, covering my track. The dark's pain was sweet, but now they're on my back. I laughed as she cowered, that thrill in the night. Now I whisper denials under the spotlight. Claim it's a plot to tear down my throne, but deep down I know the evil's my own. They're closing in, but I'll spin my web of lies. Oh, blame the Zionists. Watch the fools by my cries. Going mad in the shadows, covering my track. The dog's pain